Here we're talking about Keith Lehrer's Skepticism and Conceptual Change. It might have actually made more sense to put this article before the last two that we read, because the last two that we read, I think, in different ways, were arguments against skepticism, and maybe it would have made a lot more sense to have an example of a skeptic before those arguments, but here we are. I wanted to include at least one genuine skeptic in the mix. Certainly we saw with Moore that he was arguing against skepticism, I think, and he was arguing against just the sort of skepticism, I guess, that Lehrer is proposing, and that is skepticism with regard to contingent statements. Much of what Moore was, I think, at least what I got out of it, is that Moore was defending the kind of contingent knowledge that was embodied in the 7 assertions with which he began his lecture. It is Lehrer here who is providing an argument of a sort that we can never really know any contingent statements to be true for sure with certainty, and more specifically what he's saying is that for every contingent statement that we think we know, there is always some chance that we're wrong, no matter what it is, no matter how common sense it is, no matter how intuitively obvious, no matter how absurd it would seem to doubt it, there is always some chance of us being wrong, and that's just built in to the phenomenon of knowledge itself. So, what is skepticism? Well, skepticism, generally speaking, is a denial that either we can never know something, or that we can never really know that we know it. That is, it may be that we know what we think we do, and it would be dogmatic from the skeptic's point of view to say that we know that we don't know, because that would be knowing something, and then that would contradict the skeptic's basic thesis about knowledge. What the skeptic seeks to do, generally speaking, is to do the latter, that is to say that we can never know that we know. No, Lehrer's more specific way of getting at it, I think, is to say that there is always some chance, there is some probability that we have made an error in the judgments that we make. And it's just that judgment that I think we need to look at. First, it's very important to look at his actual argument and his premises, which the whole essay is meant to defend, and that's towards the top of page 205. He says, let me therefore lay down my premises without comment and then turn to their defense. There are only two. First, if a man knows for certain that P being any statement, is true, then there is no chance that he is wrong in thinking P to be true. That is, the idea there is if you know something with certainty, what that means, what that logically implies, is that there is no chance that you're wrong, as if you know something for certain. Second, if a statement is contingent, and we should be familiar with what contingencies are, what contingent statements are. For example, all of the assertions with which Moore began his lecture were contingent statements, and all that means is that there are statements that, although Moore would say they are true, they could have been false, and their contraries or contradictories are not themselves contradictory, self-contradictory. Second, if a statement is contingent, then there's always some chance that one is wrong in thinking it to be true. Therefore, no one ever knows for certain that any contingent statement is true. If both premises are conceded, the conclusion is ineluctable. That is, the conclusion is unavoidable. It must be true. That is, if both of those premises are true, the conclusion that no one ever knows for certain that any contingent statement is true must be true. So really it all rests on the validity of those premises. And really, I think for our purposes, it's the second of the premises that we want to focus on. That is, if a statement is contingent, then there is always some chance that one is wrong in thinking it to be true. Why would one think that? What is the argument there? remember that Moore was defending just such contingencies as things that we can know and know for certain. What is Lehrer's argument that we can never know those things for sure, in the sense that there is always some chance that we have made an error in our judgment?